Howdy folks, hey, it's going. Welcome to the brewery. It's brew day, and today I'm going to be introducing, once that truck rolls by, some new equipment and some new ingredients into Little John's. So this comes from my recent trip down to Melbourne when I dropped into Keg-KIng. Shout out to all the guys down there, Daniel, Paul, Cam, Nick, Chris, rest of the crew. I dropped in to grab a few things, and before I left, Daniel had managed to stick a few things under my arms to add to the trip. And two of those things are what's sort of partially driving today's video, and that's these guys. Yep. These fellas, what they are, this is a Fermenter King Jr, a 10 litre. I've got the 20 litres, which you've seen me using plenty. I do most of my split batches in those at the moment. I've been using those for a while. Daniel's from one of these. This is a 10 litre fermenter, 10 litre total volume, and this fella is basically the same thing, but you can see it's darkened, it's grey. I think this is called a King Keg. Looking at them, they're pretty much exactly the same thing. The only difference is that, yeah, the material. But this is designed to be a keg, a portable keg, so you can take it around to parties and things like that, or even just, well, obviously you can use it in your keg fridge at home. But the main purpose is that it's a vessel that's going to hold, you know, 8-9 litres of beer, around a carton, and it's going to be easy to take to parties and have keg beer. So the beer I'm doing today is going to end up in this, so we can then do the tasting from out of this fella. Whether it's going to end up at a party or not, particularly this brew, I don't know, but we'll see where that ends up. Let's put that aside because that's not today. Today is this fella. What's it? 10 litre fermenter, and now the 10 litre is total volume. It has a capacity, or recommended ferment capacity of 8 litres. It's designed to be used under pressure, and it comes with the standard pressure lids that the Keg-KIng Juniors come with. It has a ball lock lid for ball lock gas and liquid post, and also comes with your dip tube. So PRV. So essentially this is exactly the same as I said, your 20 litre, just cut down 10 litres, and the idea is that this can be used for fermenting split batches, or, you know, smaller experimental batches, stovetop batches, things like that. It just gives you another option in fermenting without needing a bigger fermenter than you have to have, and potentially saving some money, because these are a bit cheaper than buying a bigger fermenter. So I will put this together before I use it. I'm not going to bore you too much with that just at the moment. That's a fairly straightforward process. We know how to do that. You put the hoses on and connect it all up. Fairly straightforward. So we'll have a look a bit later about what we're getting into. Okay. So we're looking to get 8 litres of brew in there. As I said, you could do a 23 litre batch. You could pull 8 litres off that batch. Drop your other 15 litres into your normal fermenter and ferment normal, and you could try a different, you could go for a different yeast or a different dry hopping method or a different temperature, all that sort of stuff, by using your smaller keg, and you're not risking a full batch to play around with different stuff. far as playing around with different stuff goes, this is what we're doing today, is I'm using this. Now, it just looks like a dark malt, which it is, but it isn't. This is actually from Voyager malt. It's Ethiopian Black Barley. Now, it's not grown in Ethiopia, it's actually grown here in Australia, but its parentage is from Ethiopia. If you go onto the Voyager website and have a look at their product guide, there's a little bit of a small write-up on it. But essentially this is very old heritage type of barley. Obviously comes from, originates in Ethiopia, and has been resurrected, I think was initially in the States in the 80s or 90s, and was grown in very small quantities. Some of the local farmers from here in Australia got hold of some, and they've bred it up and they've grown it, and they've got to the point now where they're doing a commercial amount of it. Now, this stuff is black, but it is essentially a pale malt. It is normal barley. It is not roasted. This is the colour of the hulls. This is just how it comes out. It is not. It's not roasted. It's not toasted. It's not. Yeah. So it is not a standard dark malt. And this is interesting. Talking to Daniel, he said, because I saw this as I was walking around the grain room, and I spotted it because I had wanted to get this earlier in the year when I got a big-ish order of base malts from Voyager via the local brewery at Buller Creek, and I wanted to get the Ethiopian barley, the black barley, and there's also a purple barley as well, and just to try them, but I couldn't get them in small quantities. So I wasn't buying a 20-25 kilo bag of this stuff when I wasn't really sure how it was going to go. So when I saw this down there, I was straight away, I said, I've got to have some of that while I'm here. Now it does look a little bit different to normal barley. It's not as long, it's a very short little grain. It's sort of inconsistent in its colour. It's like in a lot of cases, the husk is almost like it's sort of like painted on, and it's been brushed off or knocked off while it's been harvested and stuff. Okay, it's got a it's quite a strong little taste to it. That's only like 2 little grains I've just popped in there. It's quite strong. I think it's going to be really interesting. So, but I said, I really wanted to play around with these black and purple barley. So I've got the black. I'm going to try this today. So what I'm doing is stovetop. I'm not actually doing it on my stovetop. I've got a busted element in my big burner, so it's only running on 1 element instead of 2. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to actually boil the water I need. So I'm just running with my portable cooktop out here in the brewery. So I'm doing an 8 litre batch, and just using 2 kilos of the black barley. That's it. Nothing else. That's all the grain I'm going to use. I really want to see what this stuff does on its own. I'm thinking that tasting is going to be quite interesting. So, simple mash, 8 litre volume. I'm going to do some hopping with some Citiva and some Sequioa, a mix of both, for about 34 IBU, so fairly decent hopping level. Getting into that, it's the lighter end of American Pale Ale, and probably more the range you'd expect from an Australian Pale Ale. So it's a sort of in between, because it's not Australian hops, it's American hops. But anyway, I've really liked the beers I've done recently with the Citiva and the Sequioia. So why not put them together? I don't think as even with the 34 IBU, they're not a big punchy hop. They're not going to override the flavour of the grain. I think it's going to let the grain really show what it can do, what it's like, but still give me, I'm hoping, a beer that's going to have enough character that I'm actually going to want to drink it. Experiments are fine. At the end of the day, it's preferable if you can drink what you're playing around with. So that's where we're at. So water's on. I've got, at the moment, 10 litres of water. Total volume is pretty well 15. I'm gonna fiddle a little bit with the water, as you have to when you're doing a stovetop. You got to go low volume for your mash, and then build your water up when you boil. There's not enough room in. I'm running with a 19 litre BW pot, and you'll see there is not enough volume for too much water, too much grain. So I'll be running 10 litres of water in the mash with the barley. We're looking for, at the end of the day, 15 litre pre-boil volume. And I don't know how that's going to run, but we'll see. I don't know how well this cooktop's actually going to boil. That's all fun and playing around. So anyway, I'm going to get this mashed, and we'll get this going. I'm actually going to mill the grain at the moment before I mash it, so yeah, let's try that. Righto. Got 10 litres of water in here. First of all, let's get the mash on. This is about 67, 68 degrees. I'm aiming for a 65 degree mash in. This is really weird looking, this grain. It's almost like a cracked pepper mix. It's very unusual looking, and the grain doesn't break into a hole. You know, where you're cracking out a hole and then leaving that husky stuff on the outside and then accessing, you know, the nice stuff on the inside. It just breaks the whole grain up into little bits. It's unusual. I think looking at it, I think this potentially could be a very difficult grain to work with in a normal recirculating system, because I don't think this would particularly filter very well. I don't think it would set a good bed because there's nothing there to really do that. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah. When I was down there talking to Daniel, he said he'd used this, and he didn't look at the EBC, he didn't look at the colour of it, he just saw a black grain, and he used it in a dark beer expecting it to get a dark result, which he didn't get. It wasn't until then that he actually looked at what it was. The EBC on this is between 4 and 8. which is pale malt pushing up into the bottom end of a Vienna. So it is squarely, supposedly, a base malt. I said it's not roasted, so it's made a very interesting colour, that's for sure. I'll get the camera over in a second just to look at that. So I said I'm going to run this at 65 as it is at the moment, for about 20 minutes, and I'm going to bring it up to 72 and then to 75 to finish. I'm basically going to do that with just by adding some boiling water. I'm about 7 litres under total volume. I won't get all that in here, but basically what I'll be looking at doing is just max this out with water this pot, with boiling water as the additions, and get that temperature up. I've taken this, you can see I've taken this off the hot plate because of the bag sitting on the bottom of the pot. I don't want to melt it by putting that heat in. I could pull the bag up and peg it and clip it up so it's off the bottom. But I'm gonna run with this for today. I said this is quite experimental. We'll see how we go. But anyway, that's the idea. Bit of a step through. I said I'll just add boiling water to bring that as I get to it. Before I finish, I just want to show you this colour. Yeah, it's quite greyish. Yeah, it doesn't have any of that sort of. Normally you get a little that brownish, golden sort of colour with the mash, but no, this is very brown, grey, murky looking. Yeah, so gonna be interesting to see what we end up with, but we'll continue on, and I'll see you sometime soon. Alright, we're about 20 minutes in, just starting to drop a bit of heat, so throw a kettle of boiling water in here. I'm not going to get a hell of a lot more water in there. I may have to go back on the heat. I don't really have any choice. But I can't get much more water in there. Anyway. Yeah, that's like 67. I'm not going to get to me 72. Alright, so I'm just going to lift the bag up, get its bum off the bottom of the pot, and I'll get it back on the heat. It was probably a bit hopeful I was going to avoid doing that, but hey, we brewers, we're a hopeful bunch. If we weren't fucking hopeful, we probably wouldn't brew. Big problem now is I don't want to lose my bag under the pot, so it doesn't matter so much because this is induction, it probably won't get bloody hot, but anyhow, back on there she goes. And that noise is what I was trying to avoid using the cooktop. It's just a noisy. It's got a whopping fan in there that just runs no matter what. So anyway, I'll got this lamp, slowly bring this up now to 72. At that point, look at pulling the bag and rinsing with our last about 3 litres of mash water. Right, mash is done. I had a fair break in the middle. I had had to run to the doctor's. She mashed a bit longer than normal, but so we ended up with about an hour and 20 minutes, or maybe an hour and a half in the sort of mid 60s, or in the 60s, mid to high 60s anyway. And I'll just round it up through to 75 to finish off. I've got about 1.5 litres of pre-boiled water left. I've got it in the kettle. I've boiled it up. I'm going to use it to sparge. Well, rinse the grains. So, yeah, to get these out of here without putting water everywhere, just pots. Pretty full. Yeah, no, I think we're going to be fine. All good. Volume looks around where we're aiming for. Let's get our rinsed water. Okay. Alright, so I've given this grain, yeah, a couple of really good stirs during the mash, and that's certainly recommended. Yeah, you just sitting in a pot because you're not getting any recirculation to get flow through the grain. I'm going to get it out of the way. Looking at that, I've got pre-boil volume without a problem. I'm about yay far from the top of the pot, so I'm going to estimate that's pretty much 15.2 litres. Fuck, sounds good to me. So that's close enough to pre-boil target volume. Let's get this sucker cranked up and come into a boil. Let's see. Where are we sitting gravity wise? All the way through it seemed it struggled getting up to gravity. That's telling me 1025, 1026. By my calculations, I was looking for a 1031 pre-boil. So that's a little low. But I'm not too concerned about that. Being the first time around using this malt, I don't think there's really a lot of information about it. I was only guessing on my extraction, potential extraction. So probably a bit lower, and I can adjust that in the recipe. This again is not the most effective way, most efficient way of getting sugars out of the grain. But we've got a whack. That's going to come down with the boil. There's a bit there, so it's going to drop down. So for now, we'll sit down and shortly have a chat about the hops while this starts to boil off, and we'll see where we finish up. Rightio. I'm 5 minutes off the end of the boil. Actually 3 minutes off the end of the boil. This portable induction plate has not got a good boil going. It's only just boiling, so I'm not getting a great lot of reduction. And probably normally that wouldn't be too much of a concern, except you're just not going to get the boil off I'm expecting. But with that lower initial gravity from the mash, I was hoping to boil off a little bit harder than normal, boil it down a bit more and maybe make up some ground that way. But it would appear I'm not going to do that. So I boiled for about an extra 20 minutes in the end. It was meant to be a 60-minute boil. I boiled, I lost track a little bit. I didn't start timing initially. But it's been at least an hour since I did take notice, and it's been going for anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes before that. So that's where she is. So at the moment I'm just going through hopping. So I said 60-minute boil, 30 minutes we dropped in 400 grams of, no we didn't, oh well, hang on, 7 grams of sativa for 30 minutes. 6 grams of Sequioia at 10 minutes. In between there I dropped in some yeast nutrient, a little bit of Wellflock, and then I'm dropping in this massive Whirlpool edition. That's 10 grams of sativa, 8 grams of Sequioia. That's going to go in bloody any tick of the clock. And the plan was to do a 20-minute hop stand, 85 degrees, but in 8 minutes time I need to leave here to go to drive half an hour out the road, pick up my young bloke off the train. He's coming in from Melbourne. He's up for a week here before we go down to Wollongong for the daughter's wedding next week. So I'm just going to shut it off, put the lid on and just let it sit. Drop the hops in and it can just sit. I'm not going to bother pulling the immersion chiller out. I'm just going to let this cool and it can just chill. It's only 12 litres or something. It's not going to take a real long time to chill. It'll be fine. So that's what's happening there. So I will pop back a bit later once it has cooled. And we've got a final reading, and we'll look at final numbers, quick talk about yeast and how I'm gonna ferment and stuff like that. See you shortly. There you go. In the boil right now. Right, folks, it's now the next day. Cooling didn't happen quite as quick. Yesterday, as I sort of hoped it would, I was hoping I could have got it wrapped up last night. And in the end, we've picking my young folk up and stuff. Time just got away. So anyway, next day, It's cooled. It's sitting at about 14 degrees in the fridge, so it's a little bit below ambient, and we're going to ferment that, but it's okay because to my transfer and whatnot will be good regardless. But anyway, I've got our fermenter ready. I've given him a good clean to sanitize. I've gone through, I've stuck our volume sticker on the side there. Now I said, these are just a cut down version of the Keg-KIng Junior 20 litre, which I said everyone's seen me using. We use them quite a lot. So the hardware is the same kit that comes with that. So same volume sticker, so it's a 22 litre, I think it is, or the whole, I've thrown it out. But so to get it on, you know, just you're getting your new fermenter, you're not quite sure. What I find the easiest way to do it is I put 2 litres of water into the fermenter. 2 litres, which I know is 2 litres. So if you haven't got a jug that you've calibrated, do so. Get your scales, put 2 litres of water in your jug, and see where that comes to or compared to your actual line. So I put my 2 litres of water in. I put just a little texture mark on the fermenter, and then put the sticker on. Obviously done a rough check, cut it off, made it easier, and what we ended up with, the sticker's about 12.5 litres up there, so 12 litres is there. So it's 10 litre volume, which is here, so that's pretty full, and because that 12 litres is irrelevant. Once you get beyond, well, and realistically, like I said, they say it's a 10 litre volume. I think I've actually measured it, it wouldn't be much more, because from the 8 litre mark, I said, which is their recommended volume, she starts to curve, so you start losing volume. So even where it says 9 and 10 litres on this is not going to be right. So it probably is pretty close to 10 litres, because that's 11 and 12 on the sticker there. So, so the reality is, 8 litres being there, you are going to want really any more than that in there to allow for some krausen. So even if you are winding the pressure, you're still going to get an amount of krausen. It might only be, you know, an inch at most, but even an inch is going to get you into the range where you're actually getting into the dip tube. Now I put the lid together, as I said I would, sitting there, it's all sanitised, it's sitting in the jug all sanitised. The posts just screw on, yeah, and these have only been done figured hot. I haven't even screwed these on. You could, you know, tighten them up just a little bit with a shifter, with a spanner, which I might do. If it doesn't hold pressure, then I'll give them a little bit of a nudge. Pressure relief valve, same thing, it's just in by hand. That should work pretty good. You got to be careful with these, with the disconnects with the posts, that you don't cross thread, because it's only plastic. So do the old reverse it off until it drops into a slot, and then come back and tighten it up. So you're actually sitting in the groove, not creating a new one, because that'll fuck your post, and that'll fuck your pressure relief, your pressure. And in this, if you haven't got pressure, you got no fucking hope of fermenting in that. It's just going to blow shit through your spunning valve. So you really need this here to be sealing. Hose on. Again, the hose is designed for the 20 litre vessel, so it's a lot longer than you need. And even in the 20 litre, when you get it, it's more than what you need. So I've cut it down. So what this is going to do, this actually sits in the bottom of the fermenter. I could have pulled it back a little bit shorter. This is the bit I cut off. And when you read the instructions online on the website, it actually says 30 centimetres is their recommended. You see this line here, which is it's probably only an inch shorter. It's probably closer to being perfect, but that's going to work fine. But it does get all the way to the bottom. All is good. Got my thermometer on there. Got my sponsorship sticker. Not sponsorship. Product endorsement. Whatever. Product placement. Whatever you want to fucking call it. As I said, Keg-KIng gave me this. I didn't pay for it. Not quite pay for comment, but anyway. So there you go. So she's ready to go. So I'm going to get liquid in here. I'm not going to video this because I'm going to spill crap everywhere. Because I've got to get from a stock pot into that little bloody hole. And that's harder than playing golf. So I'll come back when we've got it in here. I'll get a final bit of final gravity and we'll talk about the yeast and ferment. We got there. Okay, there was a little bit of spillage. Not a massive amount, but a little bit. I managed to get most of it. Most of it in there. I had a fraction under 8 litres here. I was just starting to get a little bit of the crud from the bottom of the pot, so I was just tipping it straight out. So I stopped at that point. There was probably another half to 3/4 of a litre actually in the pot I could have got had I bought some of the crud over, some of the proteins and things, but I wanted to leave them behind. Got me about probably about 7.8 litres into the fermenter. Gravity, I took a refract sample because again it was just going to be difficult to get an actual a sample for a hydro. Tells me about 1032. Now, I mentioned I was worried about how much the boil was going to be, how strong the boil would be on that cooktop, and it was minimal. It was boiling, and actually I don't even know if it was temperature wise. On the probe wasn't going above 98. 97.6 was about where it was sort of getting to. It wasn't breaking the surface, so I couldn't even really confidently say they even had a rolling boil. So I only got very minimal reduction, only got 1% increase in the gravity from pre-boil to post-boil. So that knocked us around. I was expecting about 1041, got 1042, 9 points short. So I've just added about 220 grams of litre malt. I didn't measure it, I've just scooped it in. Bunch of these spoons, 17 of these scoops. These on average weigh between I get about 13 to 15 grams per scoop. So it's around that mark, between 200 and 220 grams, which according to the calculator will get me around that 1042 mark. So realistically I'm sitting between 1041 and 1043 starting gravity. We'll call it 1042 for the sake of argument, and we'll go from there. So dry malt straight in, so I'm going to give this a good shake shortly. Yeast, something new for me, and again flowing on from that visit to Keg-KIng, Bluestone. Now these guys are Melbourne based yeast lab. They've been around for a while now. I've been waiting, it seems like forever, but probably about 18 months since they started putting out online that they were coming. They were sort of hitting up home brewers, keep your eyes out, and then for a long time it was just not available, other than to breweries. Earlier in the year they finally started releasing. Keg-KIng are one of their, they haven't got a lot of suppliers. Keg-KIng's one of their main suppliers, or probably is their main supplier for us home brewers. Pouches, they do a 200 billion cell count pack, which is really good because that means you can pitch that on pretty much anything and not have to worry about it. Of course you've got to take into account your normal viabilities and your def and all the rest of it, and run it through a pitch rate calculator. Now, this fella had a production date of the 18th of June, which means this has got a fairly low cell count at the moment. I should have checked what it was. I'm just going to find out, and through the magic of television you'll instantly get an answer. Okay, good news is our yeast pitch rate calculator tells me that this yeast, that being 153 days old, has no viability, which means ideally I'd be using this and making a starter and building it up, blah blah blah. There's videos elsewhere on that sort of thing, but right now I'm not doing that. I could pitch. I've got US-05 in there. I've got packs of kit yeast, but what my thinking here is, one, because this does need a starter. This is only a small batch really, and despite the fact they say there's no viable cells in there, I know there's going to be cells in there. They're not all dead. There is some, viability in this packet. I think it's going to be enough to get the job done here. And what my thinking is, I'm basically going to use this as a big starter. So we'll get this brew done, then I'm going to have a nice collection of yeast I can get out of this, which I can then use on a future brew and get a really good assessment on the yeast itself. As it stands on this batch, again, this isn't this is very much a experimental play around batch. So yeast influence on this one isn't quite so important, and if it doesn't do its absolute best, I'm not too concerned. Like I said, this is getting a run through this little bit of gear, getting an idea how that black barley goes. Going from there. So we'll get a bit of a look at this. The main thing is I'm going to get a starter I can use on a future batch. So anyway, all good. So that's us. Done. I can get the lid on. I'm going to give this a heck of a shake, get some oxygen through here into this bad boy. I'm going to get him into the ferment fridge. Ferment at 17.8 degrees. Or for you people who don't have exact temp control, 18 degrees. I'm going to run that for 7 days, raise it to 21 for probably 3 days after that, and then cold crash. And package him up and see where we go. So that's her. Voyager Ethiopian Black Barley with Bluestone, Michigan, US yeast. So I didn't say what actually too much about the Michigan is the yeast from Bluestone, which is, it's a typical US style. They're recommended for IPA, West Coast IPA, Hazy IPA, Porter, Red Ale, Stout, Pale Ale, Brown Ale. Ales. And it says on the corner up the top there, great for ales. So that's what we do. So let's use that. Anyway, guys, that's it. This has not been the smoothest stovetop brew day ever, and I sort of half expected that, and I probably shouldn't have been so lazy. It wasn't the right day for it, but anyway, it's done. So comments, questions down the bottom as always. Thumbs up to all the supporters of the channel, all the Patreons. Thank you very much for your support. It's part of what allows me to do this sort of thing. If you subscribe to the channel, fantastic. If you're not, hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the bell so you'll get notified when there's new videos. And aside from all that, give me a thumbs up. All that stuff keeps the channel going. But for now, I'm done. I'm going to dance this fermenter over there to the fucking fridge. Get it fermenting. So till I see you again. Oh no, we'll be brewing beer, talking beer, drinking beer, talking beer, brewing beer. Whatever we're doing, good brewing. It's like a baby, just rock it to sleep. Good. Hey? Beer. It's like a member of the family. See you later.